Welcome to the Above Center Leadership Podcast. I'm Marcy.
And I'm Allison, and this is our chance to learn from leaders who know how to get results while staying above center.
Let's get started. Allison, I'm looking forward to another conversation with you today.
I'm very excited to be here. Yay.
I know. Every morning when I wake up and I see it's one of our podcasts, I get more excited. And today is one of those great days where I get to not only talk to somebody who is one of the best persons I've ever seen in the marketing field, but she's also become a really good friend and somebody I truly admire. So I'm excited to introduce you and the Rebel community to Steffany. So Steph, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a treat to get to be your guest on your podcast. This is going to be fun. Looking forward to it.
We can't wait to learn from you. I'd love to give the listeners a little bit of background from my experience watching you work. I've never seen anybody so brilliant with marketing because you've got this great creative edge that captures the culture of the company you work for. And at the same time, you do all the market research, the statistics, the thought leaderships, and you're juggling so much of the strategy with the brand. And then I even saw you navigate, through the COVID times. And so to me, in this world of marketing, I see sales and marketing getting closer and closer and intertwined together, and how you keep that brand promise alive for salespeople when there might be, some difficulty, say, with revenue or something happening because you've got background in healthcare, you have the COVID, you still have to do the brand promise through that. So I just would love to start out of the gates and tell me a little bit about the background about how you navigate the brand promise through the ups and downs of revenue cycles and things like that.
That's a lot to unpack, but I will start. So I will say, though, that I think the biggest advantage, and I try to encourage this with my team, is everybody gets to dabble in all the different disciplines of marketing. So I come from a long career where I was sometimes a marketing department of one, and I had to do all these things, right? So it was both strategic and tactical all the time. So it's easy to sort of bounce back and forth and help people elevate them in the whatever role they may have, whether it's strategic or tactical, to move the brand forwards because I have that context. So that makes it easier to lead because I've been in their seat at different points along the way. So where the sales team's concerned, you're absolutely right. As we grow as a company, but as the market changes, I mean, marketing and sales were very, I would say in the early days of my career, they were almost at odds. I mean, I've been in product management in a couple of roles, and those two roles especially were very much at odds in the sense that sales historically would sell 3 versions ahead of the roadmap, and you're constantly trying to catch up and market to all those things, and they're created a lot of friction. Whereas now it's so critical that we're in lockstep with everything that we do. I'm at this in particular, and I know this is a trend in the industry, is moving toward a more account-based marketing model, which requires a level of symbiotic relationship that's even more so than we had in the past. So I've always worked closely with the sales team at iMethods. Everyone's culturally aligned. We're all, mission driven. It's a very close-knit group of people. But when it comes down to brass tacks, it's this before that, and then what do you do on the back end? So the brand promise has to be delivered as far as driving new opportunities, but it has to continue through the entirety of the relationship, which is forever. The iMethods model is to be very relational, not transactional, so the brand never stops. And we have to encourage the sales team to be mindful of that and be part of that. So everybody owns the brand. In my opinion, everybody markets. And the period of time we were at COVID, yeah, that was challenging because everything shut down. And how did we go back to our roots and really serve our clients, which is core to our brand, building those relationships, helping them in that particular situation, like survive, not only financially, but how do they take care of patients? How do they manage through this crisis that none of us had seen really coming or had ever experienced anything in the past? And that particular period was really interesting in that we had to get pretty creative and we all had to work from home. And for folks who had never worked remotely, it was a big challenge. So to keep the culture tight and to keep the brand moving, we held a weekly webinar for our clients, and it was whoever could make it could make it. If they were putting fires out at their organization or couldn't join, that was fine. But we recorded a session every single week, and we had between 20 and 50 people come every week to just commiserate basically and talk about their challenges. And it was very interesting, certainly in the early days of the pandemic making its way across the country, where some were in the thick of it and others weren't feeling anything yet. And then the others who were early on had guidance for the ones who were further down the path that got it later, and they're like, oh my gosh, what did you do? And so it was just this collaborative connectedness that is so core to who iMethods was. So that was a great example. We pivoted all of our events to a virtual platform. So our creativity we had to be faster than ever, but it really brought, I think, the sales team closer to us in the sense that it was a all hands on deck, everybody's in this together kind of situation. And now as the company's growing, we're bringing more people in. We do have to get a little bit more systematic about it, but being sort of yoked to each other is more critical than ever as we're being much more focused on finding opportunities and growing in accounts that are um, who have a need that we can fill. Like we don't want to be coming late to the party. We want to enable the sales team to be ahead of the curve and be able to know what the needs are so they can anticipate them. They can be good strategic partners. So we're all, I joke that marketing's got its hand in every cookie jar at iMethods. That's not an exaggeration. We're part of every part of the organization. Really long answer, I know, but I hope that touches on the core bits of the question.
Steffany, that actually leads really nicely into one of your favorite quotes, which is leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge.
Yes, I have a mug that says this, thanks to my friend Marcy. Yes, that is very true. So through that, you have to take care of your people, right? And the folks that are in my charge are the folks on my team, obviously. But I think that's really true of the whole organization. It's a matrix environment, so we all have to take care of each other. So the people in my charge are not just the people who work for me directly, but it's the organization more broadly. So being available, being supportive, meeting them where they are. You guys have been incredibly helpful to iMethods as an organization through your Cloverleaf coaching. I Although it comes really early in the morning, I get my emails that ping Cloverleaf, and I'm like, oh, who am I meeting with today? Let me read this and see what insights and psychological voodoo that Cloverleaf's going to share with me about myself today. But it is so insightful to know where people are coming from, to have that insight to their unique style and their personality and what drives them and what causes them to be afraid of things, and to really meet them at a point where I'm not too much, extra in terms of, closing the gap, letting them meet me from where they are, so they can grow in their role and not have to be. I don't want to tell people what to do. I want them to feel empowered to offer, and so that's kind of one of the strategies related to this.
Yeah. One of the most amazing thing I've seen in your leadership is that, right now, because marketing is so accessible to all employees because they do it in their personal life with social media and Canva and things like that. So it is really important that the marketing team, it has a plan to tell the right story to the right audiences at the right time. And anytime there's kind of a stray cat or one off, it actually confuses the audience and it waters down the brand. So the one thing I've seen that you do really well is you have a company of people like coming to your team, like, hey, can you help me with this? How about that? And they can get spread thin pretty quick with too many priorities. But you all do such a good job of like taking care of your people, making sure that your team, has the voice to say not yet, or the voice to say I'm going to reprioritize or things like that. Can I just ask, how do you navigate, all the constraints on your team and how you help them make good decisions so the quality of work and the timeline stay on track, but without disappointing the customer, which is your employees?
Yeah, that's a delicate balance. It really is, because my team is an amazing group of creatives who will work themselves into a hole. I am not the greatest example of not of not working too much, but
That's a different podcast.
that's a whole different podcast. But really to help them not feel that everything's an urgent situation. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience last week, where I was very fortunate at the ACHE Congress, the American College of Healthcare Executive Congress, to be there for Brené Brown's opening session. And so much wisdom in a half an hour. We could spend it a whole day talking about it. But one of the things that struck me, and I was like, "Ooh, that's so me," and she actually has this tattooed on her arm, and it is S for stimulus, and then open parentheses with some space, close parentheses, and response. And it's about reminding you to pause between the stimulus and the response. I'm like, I had chills. And I'm thinking, that's what I need to do. Like, that's what we all need to do. So there's the ask, and then you don't have to respond right away. We're all so conditioned to respond before there's even stimulus. We just get ahead of it. And I'm just like, go action girl, want to jump in there and solve a problem right away. But to stop and pause and just take a minute to allow that space to just like ruminate for a minute before you respond, I thought was genius. I'm like, I might get the tattoo myself. Like, it's just that important. As a reminder, I do have one of these little necklaces. I'm out wearing it today that says it has a little pause symbol on it, just to remind me to just, because that's the message to give to my team in those cases. So the answer is never no. The answer might be, hey, I have these 8,000 priorities. I will get to it. What's your real deadline? And to also educate everyone else that we need notice, right? So it's not just about teaching my team to be able to say no or not right now, but it's about setting expectations and building processes in place that there is a methodology before the ask even happens. So people appreciate what goes into it. It's not just a fire drill all the time. It can't be. It's wearing them out. So we don't want that to happen. So to protect them, I have to go backwards to the source and say, okay, we're going to do this. We actually put this little flag system in place. Do you know about our flag system? Which is so fun. But they're like, what can we just do to say we just need a little quiet time to get something done? And all the operations people in the office were like, yes, please. So it's an open concept kind of space. You've been in it, Marcy. And it's just a little orange flag that you can put on the door. And it just basically is an indication like, email me, but please don't walk in. I'm working on something that I can't be interrupted for. It's a small, subtle, but just, shush y'all kind of thing that you get on the golf course at the Masters. But just like give me a minute because I'm in the middle of something. And it's been a huge time saver because it's really hard to work in a busy, culturally engaged, like super fun office. You have to work too. And so there it helps them find that balance.
Well, I remember when I was working back in the office with a larger team, and I always wanted to have like my kindness or like my manners with me. But people would knock on my door and I'm scrambling away at something, trying to get out the door for a meeting. And somebody politely knocks, like, hey, got a minute? I'm like, no, I don't. I actually do not have a minute. So that
Yeah,
flag system is just a gentle way because most people can wait or can pause. And it's
right.
just doesn't have to be this instantaneous. So I love that you guys have that
Power of the pause, really. I
power
mean,
of the
that's what it
pause.
comes down. And it takes the onus off of them for having to say no or feeling like they are disappointing someone. The
Yeah.
conversation doesn't even happen. Like the instructions are go text me or Teams message me or email me, but I'll get to it when I can. It's
When
been
it's so important, like for the culture, like we, in our world, we say, to be above center is a way where you're really being your authentic self and you've got a mindset and a choice of how to handle things the right way. But the fastest way to get below center in today's society is just load up too many tasks and then
Mhm.
give it to somebody that had like the responsibility as like one of their core values or one of their strengths. And
Mhm.
their pile never gets done because everybody is, just interrupting and
Right.
asking for help where they think it takes you a couple seconds, but add that up and it's pretty stressful.
Absolutely. Well, and it's really too about being able to compartmentalize, being able to prioritize. And so we are always evolving our team meeting to how can we better prioritize and how can we better support each other. So every meeting is what is everyone working on? What do you need? What do I need? How can we move this forward and get that one off so the next thing bubbles up? But we're not asking everybody to prioritize everything as a number one all the time. It's not sustainable.
When we think about communicating with each other, right, and putting that pause in the middle, a lot of times we don't really hear what somebody is asking because we're already thinking two steps ahead. So
Yeah.
putting that pause in the middle
Yeah.
allows our brain to catch up and digest what is really going on and actually explore with deeper questions.
Correct. And that's certainly not my natural state. So I have to work on it all the time. But I think that, we have a lot of different people in the organization. I mean, obviously people are wired differently. So to be able to accommodate and give them the space, some react more quickly than others, some adapt to change more easily. But whatever fills that pause might be the need for them to spend a day thinking about it. The pause might be a day, the pause might be 5 minutes, but giving folks an opportunity to step into the pause without having someone tell them how to react is, I think, like, the goal of the balance of my career is to figure out how to do that correctly.
That's that's the dance. That's the dance.
That's the thing.
Well, I'd love to go back to like your quote is so powerful to me. Like when I think about it, where you say, leadership is not being in charge. And a lot of times people think they need the title to then have the authority to be in charge. And then this is another layer of that. It's just because you have the title, it's not about being in charge. It's taking care of those that you're in charge. And I think that pause is such a good leadership thing to remember because your team needs a pause, your mind needs a pause, because maybe whatever's going on, if you just take a couple minutes with your team to think differently about it, you might have a better response. Can you give me any sort of example from your like lens in marketing and managing all the stuff, how like the power of pause either has worked for you or how you intend to use it?
I think that it's an ongoing exercise in self-awareness to be able to do this properly. But one of the things that, again, Brene is a genius and she's a best-selling author for a lot of reasons. But another thing that she mentioned, it's very much tied to the above the line, below the line stuff. There were two exercises that she suggested that I've actually started trying with my team. And one of them is not in every meeting, but maybe in the team meeting. You go around the room and go, give me 2 words. And whatever the words are, how are you feeling? Excited and challenged, or terrified and stressed, or whatever the 2 words are. And you don't have to explore what the words mean, but everybody just gets their 2 words. And then the manager, in this case would be me, reaches out to that person later and say, hey, can we talk about what your 2 words are? Like, how can I help you get back, get back? The other technique, which I called you about immediately, was so brilliant, was to give people permission to raise their hand and say, have the above the line, below the line language so entrenched in the culture that people know what it is and know what it is for themselves, because it's going to be a little bit different for everybody, right? And know what it is so that they can raise their hand and say, you know what, I'm feeling below the line. Can we just take a minute? And literally give them a minute or two, slow the meeting. Everybody takes a step, bathroom break, coffee, whatever you need to go do. And then come back to the meeting, give that person a second to just process whatever's going on. And then again, continue with the meeting and have that conversation later. But what does above, below the line mean? It might mean you have a sick friend or a sick relative, or you've got childcare issues or whatever it is, and you're just stuck in that space, or you're afraid of something because you've overcommitted and you're not going to deliver, whatever it is. But to give them permission and the understanding and the self-awareness to be able to understand what below the line means for them, and permission to say it out loud to the team and feel safe to do that. That's huge.
Yeah. It really is all about like as a leader, creating that environment. And too often it's not a one-to-one ratio. Like whatever is causing them to be below center might not have to do with anybody in the room. But if they don't raise their hand and say, I need a minute, or they don't think clearly, they actually respond below center
Right.
in a way that's not really their best self, instead of that pause or that like, I need a minute. And then they can come back and make a choice to either communicate differently or think of something different, but really choose an action that reflects more their best self above center. And with that in mind, like it just allows you to teach your team that you don't have to respond immediately. And not everything has to be a fight. Not everything has to be stressful. Like life is supposed to be joyful. And
Mhm.
somehow in corporate America, we got it all mixed up thinking that if we're running as fast as we can,
Right.
screw the joy. Let's just keep getting task. And then all of a sudden everyone's so stressed out, they're not thinking straight. And then you lose the creativity. Like you really,
Well, you don't want to
it's
bring
a
the
vicious
team
circle.
down either, right? I mean, there's a risk of the toxic overflow that comes from somebody being below the line and bringing folks down with them. And so, what I found sort of my secret weapon, because I do go fast, I do see the end and know how to get there, and sometimes forget to tell people how I got there. I
Allison, this is understated. She's so brilliant at this. Like
yeah,
literally somebody that can
very kind,
cast vision and then do all the stuff at the same time. Usually it takes like 3 people for both.
but I have to slow down and tell people how I got there, which is the problem. So they're like, "What are you doing again?" Like, what? So I need to. That's my, and I'm much better at it. But what I have found, and this is something that's really come in my years at iMethods, because in my previous career I was at a lot of big companies, loved them. I had a great experience. I had my Camelot job. We'll probably talk about that later because I want to make this job the Camelot job for my team. But I I really felt like it wasn't safe to be vulnerable as a leader. And because it was go, 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 climb a ladder, crabs in a basket, everybody's climbing on top of each other. Like there were lots of places in my career where that was the case. And it took some time. I mean, I've been at iMethod 6 years now, but it took probably a couple of years for me to deprogram myself from expecting that and being reactive to that. And there is no pause because you must go and you must win and you must, like, that's not healthy. Although I'm wired for it, it's fine. I could do it all day long, but
I swim well in those waters.
it's not like a great place to be. Like it's just not, you're not happy.
Not
You're
healthy.
working. It's a job. It's not a vocation. And I kind of feel like, I mean, we honestly have on the marketing team, and I know this is a podcast people will listen to, but we have way too much fun. Like I was talking to my husband last night about something we're working. Is this actually a job that you have? Like, what?
Yeah. Do you really have that much fun?
Bless him. He's so jealous. He's like, I want your job. I want to go work for him. But to be able to be finally at a place where it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay not to know all the answers. In fact, it's preferable to be vulnerable with my team, to be a real person who screws up and has flaws and shares that. Like there are things that I talk with my team about I would never have done in a previous job, but it helps them, and it's not contrived. I mean, it's my real self, but was I not being my real self before? Probably not. This is my real normal, goofy, just the me, that's me, and just says what I feel and all that kind of stuff. So I think being an authentic version of yourself is the secret sauce to managing people. Honestly, that seems to work really well, certainly in this organization.
Yeah, so true. Well, I'd love to indulge in a little bit about the Camelot. Allison majored in English. Did you minor in Shakespeare? Or you just love?
Well, it's not a minor. It's just I studied a lot of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
she loved Shakespeare. So I would love, Steph,
Interesting.
can you indulge us a little bit about your Camelot?
Sure. So, mentoring is very near and dear to my heart. I benefited tremendously from amazing mentors in my career. And Marcy, I count you among them. You're never not being mentored in life, no matter how old we get. But I'm now also on the other side of the equation where I'm mentoring people. So when I was very new to healthcare, first job, had no idea. Had an affinity for technology. First job out of college was in a technology business, had nothing to do with healthcare. Went to work for what was called a management service organization. No idea what it did, anything. Went for this interview, knew I bombed it. Everyone there was 10 times smarter than I was. I had no idea what words they were saying. Like I was completely lost. And I went in to meet with the CEO where I was expecting a thanks. It was really nice to meet you, but it's not a fit. And she's like, so I want to hire you and I want to pay you this. And it was like 3 times what I was making. I left when I left New Orleans. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Are you sure? And she said, yeah, when you were meeting with so and so, and these are the people that scared me the most, that I was so intimidated by, to a person came in the office and that's the one. That's the one we want. And I don't know why to this day. Like I'm very good friends with these people, but that CEO saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And she nudged me and pushed me out of the nest and stuck me in front of people and kind of forced me to step outside of my comfort zone, and I am eternally grateful to her. And sadly, she's since passed away. And I had a little gift near the end of her life before she was diagnosed with her disease. But she lived in Arizona and invited me to come out and do some consulting with her just for like a year. And it was I'd go visit her once every quarter or whatever. And I look back on that time as the biggest gift that I could have been given to kind of wrap up that relationship because she was kind of like a second mom. And after she passed away, we had a celebration of life service here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where I live, where we all worked. And the people that she hired, and I mean all of us, there were about 60 people, came from all over the country to come here to honor her. And every one of us stood up and told a different version of how she saw something in them that they didn't know about themselves. Like I'm probably gonna cry talking about it. So I mean, like she was just that person. So when I talk about my Camelot job, like that's it. I met this as a close second because I'm sitting in a different seat, like I'm not growing, but I want to be that person to the folks that work for me. I want them to look back on this part of their career as having leadership see something in them that they didn't see in themselves, and to give them the opportunities to grow professionally and personally, and work with people who elevate their game and push them, but not to an uncomfortable degree, but encourage them to try new things and to grow. And I mean, I've seen tremendous growth. A couple of people on the team, especially, have just blossomed, and it's just been such a joy to watch. And so when I talk about Camelot, that's kind of the best of everything. Everybody brings their best selves to the table around the round table, right? That's when we were talking at a previous meeting. That's my Camelot goal. So it's very
I
much
love
tied
that.
to it.
I
Yeah.
love that. And I love that you had someone that mentored you, just poured into you lessons that you've been able to take with you so that you can pour into other people,
Mhm.
which again goes back to your quote: leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge.
Yeah.
And that lesson is just one that is, you've been fortunate to be able to receive and to give.
Yeah. And I think paying it forward is part of our, responsibility, honestly. That was a gift for me. And Clint, our CEO, is an amazing manager, an amazing leader. And he doesn't micromanage. Like, he gives room to do the things that we do and trust us to go do it. And so it's a nice next step at this point in my career to have that kind of support. But for the folks that are up and coming in their jobs, it's very important that I get to be that person for them. So what would Patty do? That's what I say a lot, you know?
Wonderful. Well, I do want to say Camelot didn't write that. Was that somebody else that did it? I saw Allison's face when you're telling the story. I was like, I think I made a mistake. I did not study Shakespeare in college.
No, Shakespeare was not
But
written. No. There's a play called Camelot, but it's not a Shakespeare play.
all right, we'll
That's
talk
okay.
about
And
admitting
weirdly,
your
I live in
mistakes.
a neighborhood called Camelot. My neighborhood is Camelot.
You do not.
I do. I do.
That's amazing.
It is. Which was
Amazing.
weird because they also mix it in with Sherwood Forest, which is the opposite and totally different set of things. That's Robin Hood. So I'm like, we really paid attention to the videos.
Our grandmother grew up on
Shakespeare.
Sherwood Lane.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, we know
Yeah.
Sherwood.
All road leads
Um,
back to England. Right.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, Steph, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like every time I talk to you, I learn something new, and today's no different with all the little nuggets you have. And it's just
Yeah.
absolutely important that we have a choice of how we lead, and we do it away from above center. Allison, I always like to say, meet me above center and then speak. And just so many examples you shared with the pause and taking care of your team and things like that. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for letting me share.
Let's see that mug one more time.
Okay, here, look. Is it going to be backwards in the photo? Let me zoom in.
No, I don't think so, because
Oh,
Rebel
good.
is
Okay.
perfect.
Great. No, I loved it. So I got it. And my husband's like, "Are you getting another present for my methods?"
Yeah, kind of.
Like,
They are
no, this
contagious.
is from Marcy. This is a different company. So I love it. I drink out of it every day. So
Aw.
thank you for sending it. It's lovely.
Well, it was so wonderful to talk to you again. And Marcy, it was great to see you. I look forward to seeing everyone above center.
Yes.
Thank you.
Meet you
Bye.
there. Okay. Appreciate it.
What an absolutely fun interview.
Yeah.
You know what? Her quote is so perfect and very relevant for the life we live today.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, you cannot, ever overlook how taking care of your people and the people around you, just making sure people feel good and they're healthy and they got the right mindset. And they know they're valued, they're seen. And I love how her mentor, that she learned from a very early age, if you have that ability to see something in somebody before they see it in themselves, what a gift that is you can give somebody for a lifetime.
I know. And then how about that Brené Brown comment with the pause in the middle? And I'm going to continually use my little hands for the parenthesis pause.
So good. Yeah, your hands will be right here. It's almost like in the parentheses, we could say, how do I get above center from this?
That's it. That's it. Maybe we can have some sort of
maybe for Brené's tattoo, we could put that in the middle. We can give her a suggestion. I know what you could put between the parentheses.
What do you think she'd say to that? All right, Marcia, I got to address the elephant in the room. Camelot was not written by Shakespeare, but it is very famous.
I know. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was associating it with Spam a lot, and then I was thinking Shakespeare.
That's all right. It's fun. It's fun to revisit things that we have learned in the past and then review them as to whether or not we still remember them.
Yeah. And I will say being perfect is overrated.
Oh, way overrated. Because I never ever make mistakes. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yours just aren't on the recording. All right. Love you.
All right. Bye, Mars.
Learn more at thererebelcompanies.com.
That was fun.